Microtrending.
Welcome back. I'm Gabrielle, and you are listening to Microtrending, a podcast for everything that is having a moment, for better or for worse. We have somehow made it to 10 episodes, which is crazy. It's not that crazy, but it has been against the odds. The odds being me. So, whether you're listening here for the first time, or you have listened to a few or all of them, thank you so much for being here. I hope you've been well. Generally, last week, and it wasn't just me, last week tried me. Like, astrologically speaking, I'm not sure what was going on, but there were also some highs. Working on some fun side projects, feeling inspired, eating drizzlicious, realizing I need a new summer wardrobe and to clean out my closet, give more stuff away, just girly things. I like May. In general, the month of May, things tend to turn around a little bit in May. Anyway, we're going to get into one of my favorite topics / least favorite topics today, which is to say something that I feel very passionate about, very spicy about, something that is honestly like at the core of why I do what I do from like a content and comedy writing perspective. What drives me, not the only thing, but one of the things. And there are also answers to the query that I posted on my Instagram story, which I will share later because they are related to that thing. But first, as always, I do want to thank you again for listening, for sharing, for liking, for subscribing, for commenting. It makes a huge difference and makes the world a little less beige, which we know has become a problem. Really quickly, though, something that isn't sharing is stolen content. And this might seem super petty and not a big deal, and I promise things are going to get a little bit more fun in just a second. But I can feel some like complaints building up inside today, and this is one of them. I already posted something about this, but my own sweet mother noticed that a quote on Overheard LA looked very familiar. And it should look familiar because it's a story that I have been sharing offline with friends and family for years. And that's the story of my student who told me that his mom was in a bad mood because she forgot to contour her face. If you're listening to this right now, you've probably heard me say this silly little anecdote at least once. It's something that I had shared here and on TikTok and on my Instagram stories like last week or the week before. So it was pretty fresh that I had shared, again, a very silly anecdote publicly. So imagine my surprise to see it submitted to Overheard LA, framed as something overheard. By the way, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to tell that a lot of the things shared on there are fabricated. A lot of the ones that are quotes allegedly from kids, someone who worked with children for many years, very clear to tell whether something is fake or not. This one was real though. Anyway, if you did this, if you were the one that shared this, it looked like the submitter account was deleted or something. I hope you have the 2025 that you deserve. I personally think that those overheard accounts should have died off years ago. They're kind of like the BuzzFeed of Instagram, if that makes sense. There's a lot of low effort and apparently stolen content on there. And this is not the first time that someone has like ripped my content, which maybe I should take as a compliment. Perhaps you haven't made it until somebody is ripping off your stuff. But as someone who is extremely passionate about like original content and fighting the fight against AI, it just like really irks my soul. This Overheard LA situation was the first like anonymous instance of this happening, but back in 2023, there was a girl that was essentially copying the like niche aesthetic starter packs, which I don't own as a concept. I want to be clear that that is not the problem, but I posted gas station girl, TM, I guess, and she posted gas station girl with a lot of the same elements on the mood board. So strike one, but strike two, if you'll stay with me here, was that she was using these videos as a way to sell her jewelry. And I had a few people tell me, well, why does that make a difference? Like, why does that specifically bother you? And I think it obviously makes it worse if somebody is trying to make money using, you know, a slight variation on content that somebody else made. It's not exactly like screen recorded, copied content, but like pretty close. And she didn't tag me or give me credit until like 2 or 3 people let her know, like, hey, this looks familiar. So thank you if you were the person who let her know. But it was a whole saga. It was entertaining and it was a learning experience, a little bit about how like people on TikTok move and behave. But anyway, I am of the mind that if you really want to copy somebody, you should just do a lip sync trend if you want somebody else's words in your mouth that badly. Good luck out there. Anyway, to get us even more in the mood for our topic at hand, I did also want to briefly bring up the another piece of rage-inducing internet content. Not really rage-inducing, but just really gave me pause. And that is the Dazed magazine article, which I have not read, but I read the like lengthy blurb that was used in the caption and got the gist of the argument that the author was trying to make. But it was about normanticization, whatever the term they were using of like not romanticization, but like romanticizing normcore or being a normie. Anyway, the argument is that cool people, whatever that means, have allegedly turned to normcore in retaliation to like the microtrend era, the like main character energy era of people just buying the next trend, the next crazy item from TikTok shop. And I personally just think that this is like leopard print and a pop of red going away, like the mob wife situation. Because if the argument is that we are dressing more plain and more norm core and we are moving away from like buying every mismatched crazy trendy item, the girlies are still doing that. Like people are still buying like the it item. It just is beige now. Let me remind you how real Operation Beige is. And taking a step back, I feel like I need to have a conversation with this author because they're framing being a normie as being punk, quote unquote, which is offensive. And I'm not someone who is like a mosh pit veteran, but that is music I enjoy. It is a subculture that I have read a lot about. I'm not an expert, but I know slightly more than perhaps this author about punk culture. But beyond that being offensive, I am so curious to know where they're seeing this. Where are you seeing somebody dressing super like NPC nondescript beige as an act of rebellion in any sort of punk way? Seems made up to me. This might just be a whack thesis to begin with, but pointing out that we have become more beige, more neutral, that is happening, but it's not like a grassroots effort. And it is crazy to think of it that way, to call it punk. Anyway, this isn't happening. Operation Beige is happening. The flattening of culture, the private equity color suck of everything that's happening. You're giving credit to the wrong folks here in an effort to make beige seem sexy and rebellious, etc. And if this were just like a Medium essay, like a personal essay posted, a personal thesis, I've written stuff like that before where it's like, this is just my opinion on culture right now. I think that's fairly forgivable. We've all had wrong opinions here and there, but because this is posted on like a major, I don't know if I can call it major, but like a popular and known magazine outlet platform, it is, in my mind, propaganda. And I know that might seem like hyperbole or maybe a reach, but the whole point of Operation Beige, as a reminder, is that it is the softer arm of fascism. It's not obvious, oftentimes. It's very internet friendly, it's very subliminal, very alluring. You gotta watch out. Anyway, do better, Dazed.
Microtrending.
And on that note, we can just really get into it here. This is more than a podcast's worth of thoughts. I'm going to try to not ramble too much about, but it is the concept of letting people like what they like. Or as I would like to revise it to, letting people dislike what they dislike. And I do have enough to fill a dissertation or at least a TED Talk on this, which I will not subject you to. But let me just say that whenever I have seen a comment on a video or an article simply sharing an opinion about something, and that comment is, God, why can't you just let people like what they like? My thought is always, is your sense of self so fragile and your taste so movable that another person's opinion has influenced that thing that you enjoy? How is a dissenting opinion affecting you so much that you see it as an affront to enjoying what is always, almost always, a mainstream thing? That's important. Sometimes this is in response to like a critique of something that's more niche, but like 9 times out of 10, this is someone who has seen a negative opinion about something that is like the majority, something that the majority of people enjoy. Like Disneyland, like Taylor Swift, like the NFL, I don't know. There are so many things this could apply to. It's not just let people like what they like. There are other faux concern, like cop brain dog whistles that are out there, and you've probably run into them. You've probably heard them. One that's very similar is what happened to letting people enjoy things. Some other ones, it's giving pick me, or did he pick you yet? Mean girl energy, not a girl's girl. Who hurt you? That last one I see on my aesthetic videos a lot, on like the guys ones, and it's always hilarious to me, as if like a critique or a lighthearted joke about something had to come from a place of like revenge or anger, and not a place of like observation and humor. And yes, it is often men leaving that last comment, who hurt you? But it is not lost on me at all that women are both on the giving and receiving end of a lot of the rest of those. And that makes me sad, honestly. We're like addicted to policing each other as women on the internet. And I realize that as I'm saying these things right now, as I'm sharing my opinion on how we are policing each other, I am also having an opinion. I am also policing in a way. But these are two different sides. I am simply suggesting that we are less Karens to each other by default and more accepting that women are not a monolith, that we contain multitudes, and that we might have different opinions, which is crazy to think about. And I hate that I have to say this, but this is, of course, very different if we're speaking politically, because these are not two equal sides that we're dealing with right now, and it never has been that way. I'm not saying that we should give the same grace to Nazi sympathizers who are also Nazis. So keep in mind that the majority of what I'm talking about here has to do with like opinions on like fashion, media, anything like that, where someone might have a very objective critique about something. Unfortunately, you will get called out as a woman for calling out another woman, especially if you're critiquing some white feminist bullshit. Like, people love to like throw around internalized misogyny when it comes to that, when you are making a valid critique, or sometimes not even a critique, just an opinion. Like, people rightfully flaming that running influencer, I think her name is Kate Max, who is openly MAGA, by the way. Like, she's co-signing a lot of crazy comments. And she had posted with Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, and again, people were rightfully coming for her in the comments. They felt betrayed. I was barely aware of this person before this, so I was not like invested in her as an influencer before, but cat's out of the bag. Anyway, we just have to keep in mind that misogyny is a disease, but I'm calling somebody that's MAGA, MAGA. I'm calling someone who is a Nazi, a Nazi. I'm calling a white feminist a white feminist 10 times out of 10. These are not gendered conversations to have. And when it comes to letting people like what they like, in this case, the things that they like are the problem, or are the slippery slope to the larger problem, which is the Operation Beige of it all, lest we forget.
Microtrending.
And I know I just got political there for a second, but if we're taking it back to what we were talking about before, which is just the arts or things that people have like valid critiques about that would be more objective, like music and movies, critique of those things, I don't know if you remember, but used to have different allowances. Like, you used to be able to dislike a song or maybe an artist or band in general just based on the music alone, like having a distinct music preference. I think we've forgotten that disliking an artist for any reason, for having music preference, if we're just using music for an example here, it's not hateful. It isn't mean-spirited unless you yourself are taking it there. And it's not bullying, and it shouldn't affect you as a fan personally. And I know this is just kind of like the core of stan culture, but even people who are like not super hardcore stans seem to have fallen into this trap still. And unless this is the basis of the critique, it's not inherently misogynistic to have an opinion about a female artist or celebrity. Like, you should be able to tell the difference. Like, if you're reading a piece of music criticism, you should be able to tell the difference between her lyrics make her sound like a slut, which is rude, awful, not a valid critique at all, and lyrically, she hasn't evolved much beyond talking about past relationships. And you might read that and think like, oh my God, they're slut shaming her. It's a critique of the songwriting craft. Maybe the material needs a bit of a refresh. Maybe they want the artist to try something a little different. And you might disagree with that. And that's the beauty of people having different opinions listening to the same music. If you walk into, I can't believe I'm like having to dumb it down this much. Not for you, but just like in general. But if you walk into a museum and you have 20 people looking at a painting, that's 20 different opinions on that painting. I would hope so. I feel like AI is trying to like get us to all feel the same way about bullshit slop art, to have a hive mind. But if you don't have a unique take on something, go to the doctor about it. Go see a professional. Get your head checked out. That's not normal. We need to start thinking for ourselves about everything. If it were 9 in the morning right now and I just had coffee, I would be so much more heated about all of this. But I still am. And you, let's pretend you're a music artist for the time being, or some other type of creative. You, as a creative person, this is just my personal belief, you have to let the loudest critic in your head be yours. Be your own voice. Unless you're Drake and you should let it be Kendrick. And or the police. Like the cops, not the band. You should be listening to that voice in your head, pushing yourself to get better. And you should probably be a little bit nicer to yourself. I feel like true artists are like super hard on themselves, not to get essentialist about it, but like a lot of creative people are hard on themselves. And if that's the case, note that. And like a TikTok tarot reading, if you're reading a review of something you've put out, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. You can't get by creatively on no notes at all, because that's like disregarding your audience, in my opinion. That's it. Artists should absolutely stand up for themselves if something is taken like crazy out of context. Or I guess if there's like a pitchfork writer that like has a personal vendetta against you. But I also feel like we do need to let pitchfork exist. Like there's always going to be like reviewers on the asshole side. That has always existed. There are so many more that are more objective and are completely valid, and I just feel like we're squashing all of it. And to make this super relevant to now, this is something that Benson Boooo, um, Mr. Boone, he's got to take it to heart. He needs to take it to heart between the little flips that he's doing up there, trying to give Pink a run for her money. I saw Pink at a grocery store recently. It was either Pink or a Pink impersonator, if those exist. I'm pretty sure it was her. Anyway, I should have asked her about Benson Boone. Anyway, Benson, I know I've made fun of him on like the gentler side, by the way, but like people are making fun of him these days, and I think that's just kind of something you risk when you're moving like that. When you're behaving in that way and very flagrantly trying to reheat Freddie Mercury's nachos for the Beige contingent. And I am proud that he left the Mormon church but I feel like we've not really fully had a Mormon exorcism. These are my notes to Benson, and you can take them or leave them. That's the beauty of critique. And some might say, just in the same way that I was like, oh, you haven't, made an impact if somebody hasn't stolen your content. You haven't made it as an artist if you don't have a hater or two or a million. Because a lot of those people aren't haters. They are people who probably have like pretty neutral notes, who would love to help you. Stuff that you might want to take to heart. Again, when you're done flipping around. My point mostly is that criticism is frittering away. And that's kind of scary to me. In the face of Project 2025 and free speech looking like it's on the chopping block more and more so every day, people don't see why can't you just say something nice as an on-ramp to fascism. But that is exactly the why can't we all just get along centrist grass-fed butter that is greasing the wheels toward beige oblivion. It's actually crazy how our policing of each other has gone from quote unquote woke to whatever is happening now. You have the people with treat people with kindness in their bios, along with the Bible verses, telling you to be nicer in the comments. Meanwhile, they voted for you know what and you know who, and are cheering on the deportations that are happening. Same people. And something that I don't want to spend as much time talking about because I have already made so many different videos on this is the discourse around female-centric media and celebrities. I know I already touched on it a little bit, but like Taylor Swift and other pop stars and the Barbie movie and Greta Gerwig. It's just all been so frustrating in the past 5 years or so. But overall, being a girly pop on the internet, having any sort of like negative opinion about those things, not even that negative, sometimes just like an opinion, it just made me feel like my brain was stuck in a food processor. And you can watch any of the videos that I've made about the Barbie movie. They're pretty far back. But let me be clear, Obama style, because I've had to take a video down about this before because I got a less than kind DM, worse than anything that I would ever share publicly about anyone and say to anyone. It was troubling. I do not enjoy the music of Taylor Swift. The only thing that I have any like true resentment toward is the Swiftie standum. I have seen the dark side of it. I'm sure there are some normal folks within it, but it is cult-like in a way that really plays well with Operation Beige and is just a little concerning to me. So if you're part of that, I don't think you're a bad person, but it helps as a fish in the Swiftie sea to like pay attention to the waters that you're swimming in maybe. And in terms of Taylor Swift, the person, I generally feel neutral on her, perhaps a little bit less fond of her based on some stuff more recently. I know she voted for Kamala, which is great, but her personhood has really become such a corporate white feminist entity that it's kind of like difficult to really defend a lot of the stuff that she's doing, like bludgeoning the chances of other artists charting through releasing those like limited edition vinyls, framing her success in an interview as like a win for women in a capitalistic way. That stuff is kind of icky to me. And I know that's not everything that she's about. I'm just like tired of defending what I dislike about Taylor Swift, the artist, and the corporation. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I do love pop music. I just don't love hers in the same way that I don't love the music of Ice Spice. I don't hate it. I just dislike it. And you don't, by the way, you don't see people claiming that disliking Ice Spice's music is because of misogyny. And that is something to think about in terms of who we choose to protect. Saying that you dislike Taylor Swift is internalized misogyny. Talking about disliking Ice Spice is like, oh yeah, she raps about poop. Not my thing. And there are so many female pop artists that I love. I love Ariana Grande. I would not consider myself a stan, but I do love her discography. It's very nostalgic. It's meaningful. I have like an emotional connection to some of the albums. And yet, I completely understand any critique that people have about her music, about her personal life choices. I'm not here to defend those things. Her dalliance with SpongeBob, her accents, these are all completely valid.
Microtrending.
And while we're on the topic of Haterade, I did ask you on Instagram for examples of things that you hate or just dislike, that you get hate for hating. And I have to share with you that I literally teared up reading them. Sometimes from laughter, but mostly with gratitude, because I had to count 16 and a half pages, full scrolls of things to hate. Some made me think, and some made me yell exactly, because I agree. So let's dig in, grab a salty snack. I'm not going to eat it right now, but I am currently enjoying the truffle Cheeto things from Trader Joe's. Cannot recommend enough. Also, Trader Joe's should be sponsoring me at this point, the way I name drop Trader Joe. Anyway, here we go. The very first response that I got was bacon. Parentheses. I was in the trenches in 2013, but people still get mad. That is crazy. More than 10 years out from the bacon BuzzFeed era for people to still be giving you heat about hating bacon, which has been scientifically proven. At least not the like healthy kinds of it. Like your average bacon is one of the worst foods you could put in your body, nutritionally speaking. So even if you are a vegan or vegetarian, or you just don't like the taste, no matter what your excuse is, you should not feel bad about not liking bacon or mustache tattoos or anything else from that era. Next, this came up a number of times in the same way that a certain TV show came up a number of times. The Beatles. I'm going to be super honest with you. I am a huge Beatles fan. And it's just because I was exposed to their music at a young age. I've seen the Yellow Submarine movie 1,000 times. I thought Across the Universe was interesting. But I can completely understand someone thinking that the Beatles are overrated. I don't necessarily agree with that take, but the beauty of people liking different kinds of music is that you're allowed to have that opinion. You're not liking the Beatles does not impact me as a Beatles fan at all. And that's how it should be. I thought this one was interesting. I like this answer because it goes along with what I was saying before about just like letting people have an opinion. This person said Taylor Swift, but I don't even hate her. I just have no opinion and people can't stand the ambiguity. And that is because, which this is, I find this very funny. We are living in an increasingly beige world, as we know. Like the world around us is becoming more and more beige, but our thinking is like catastrophically black and white. It has become so dumbed down that we can't have a middle of the road opinion on things. There are so many people that have middle of the road opinions on Taylor Swift, on the Beatles, on anything, and nuance is dead. So, thank you to the person who wrote that in because that is actually like a whole other can of worms that I find so fascinating. Another banger, someone getting hate for disliking alcohol. And I wish I could give this person a hug because I am in the same camp. I don't like it. I'm not sober, quote unquote, but like it's just not like this person also mentioned in their response. It's a sensory experience that they don't enjoy. I did not grow up drinking a lot, which sounds crazy. I don't mean like I was, a child choosing not to drink or not, except at communion in church, in Catholic church. But I went to like super nerdy schools, and so I was not like surrounded in high school by teen drinking. It was not a cool experience for me as a teen. And then in college, it was not something that played a major role in my time there. Also, I think I was kind of afraid to figure out what my limit was. And I joke about this all the time, but I have the alcohol tolerance of a 12-year-old, basically, which you would hope isn't much, and it isn't much. I also am fairly uncomfortable around super drunk people. I've just had some bad experiences. So, this is all my own personal rambling to agree with you. I think it's ridiculous that people give people shit for just disliking alcohol. And I have all the respect in the world for people who have gotten sober or just don't drink by choice. I don't necessarily think that there is inherently a moral high ground there. I think people like to play morality police with alcohol, but it's a choice that people should respect, honestly. And it's so fucking lame to like have to give some sort of excuse for why you're not drinking tonight. Why aren't you drinking? I don't like it. Another one, and I promise I will not be agreeing with all of these because there are some that I disagree with, but camping. This person said, I don't want to sleep under a rock while it rains. It doesn't even have to be that. I know they were joking, but like it doesn't have to be that dramatic. I really hate camping. I have to be honest. Don't invite me camping. Don't invite me glamping. Because that's like putting vegetables in a brownie. You're just hiding the camping experience in a shiny package. And I'm not saying that having not camped before, I have. I went on like a little mini backpacking trip at one point. Absolutely beautiful background of the Lake Tahoe area. It's just not for me. And this was before I was like wearing makeup or anything or just, doing more glam. I was perhaps a little bit crunchier as a teen, but I think part of that was feeling like I needed to fit in with my crunchy friends. And so I tried. I really liked the people I was with, but that experience, even surrounded by people that I trusted, was like enough for me to realize I don't think biologically that I feel safe outside no matter what. And this is such a petty little thing, but I wear contacts. And if you are a contact wearer going camping, it is less than ideal. There was another time that I was camping with like a school group when I was younger. It was in Mexico, actually. And there were mosquitoes around, and we had been instructed to bring and wear DEET, like the super strong bug spray. And the thing about DEET is that it does not belong on your eyes. And there was an incident where I was trying to change my contacts and DEET was present. Anyway, all that to say, it doesn't matter your excuse. You don't have to like camping, and someone giving you shit for not liking camping does not make you a high maintenance bitch. It could. And if that's what you want to label us or label me, so be it. I will be inside with running water because I don't aspire to suffering. This next person said matcha and truffle oil. I was just saying I love the truffle Cheetos from Trader Joe's. They said it tastes like sweat smells. I cannot argue with this. Matcha, I feel very conflicted about. I love a hot green tea. I love an iced green tea, but the concentration that makes matcha, like the powdered version, the ceremonial grade of it all. And I'm someone that like enjoys bitter things. It makes me nauseous. I do enjoy a matcha latte from time to time, but I just like can't pretend that that is my preference over coffee. And they're two completely different things. Matcha is a beautiful, ancient Japanese art form that has really thrown the LA food scene for a loop, and I'm sure other cities too. I don't want to knock matcha, but I do think the like micro trend of it all, which I hate to use in the context again of like an ancient art form, has been a little ridiculous. Next, food delivery apps. Dismal wages for workers, it's expensive and wasteful. If you have not listened to the first episode of this podcast, I'm not going to force you to listen to it, but I do have a food delivery app story on there that you might enjoy. I do agree overall. I do use them sometimes for ordering ahead, but I have largely broken the habit of using it for actual food delivery, which I do recommend unless of course you need it for disability accessibility reasons. I don't think we can like blanket get rid of food delivery apps for that reason. This person just said Paul Rudd, no explanation. I love that. I feel extremely neutral on Paul Rudd, but there are certain celebrities that I just really dislike that I don't really have a good reason for disliking or some reason. For me, John Krasinski's up there. I think he's being paid by the government or something. Kristen Bell, I'm not a fan of, and I like can't figure out why. But I will say this is maybe the first time I've seen somebody mention Paul Rudd as someone that they dislike versus someone that they're like in love with. So really appreciate this answer. Next we have rice, which is fascinating to me. I can't hate your hate for this. That's kind of the name of the game here. There was recently a CNN news item that a lot of rice has higher levels than previously noted of arsenic. So maybe this hate will save you. They said that sushi rice and rice grown in California is a little bit safer, in case you care. Anyway, next, ketchup. Now, I responded to this person within like 5 minutes because ketchup is one of my top 5 icks of all time. I so distinctly remember throwing up as a child, like you do, from smelling ketchup. It is like absolutely repulsive to me. So yes, I agree. I don't think you should be hated for hating one of the most popular condiments. I think you should be celebrated. Justice for ketchup haters. And what I don't understand personally is like chips and salsa, if you can consider it a food, is my favorite food. I love pretty much every other tomato based thing to ever exist, but there's something about ketchup that is the devil's nectar to me. Next, low rise jeans. I have so many opinions on jean discourse that I don't think I can fit in here, but disliking low rise jeans, if you're getting hate for that, I would ignore it. There is no one side. In the same way that we should not have a hive mind or be like blindly following trends in general, jeans are so personal. It's like actually insane that there is like one trending style or rise of pant every 4 years or so. I don't know what the cycle is. I know low-rise jeans are back. We're bringing Y2K back. Forget about like whether it looks good or not. It's simply not comfortable for certain body types. And it has less to do with weight than you think. It's just everyone is built differently. Everyone's torso is different. Everyone's butt is different. Everyone's stomach is different. Proportionally, low-rise jeans are just not going to be a winner for everyone, and that's fine. I like them because I have a longer torso, and sometimes the like high-rise or mid-rise things hit me in a weird spot, but I feel like I might be in the minority, and some low-rise jeans are simply too low. I realized that this is going to be like 3 hours long, so I'm just going to quickly go through some of these and perhaps pause for effect. Posting your newest post to your story as if anyone cared to like it in the first place. Jaywalking. Religion. Network sitcoms. Chicken. Neutral children's rooms. The beige kids' rooms. This person made the note that colors and contrast equal a healthy brain. I'm not an expert, but I did have to take child development courses a number of times before I was a classroom teacher, and that person is right. Beige is literally dumbing down your child. PSA. The Dodgers. Okay. Super long nails with the note that they make this person's nail beds hurt. I think that's completely valid. If you've like tried something on yourself and it's not working, totally valid ick. This person said chaperones music. I think that's fair. I hate to say that I kind of agree. I'm not a huge fan of chaperones music. I do like what she's doing as an artist generally. I know she's perhaps a little bit problematic, but I don't hate the person, just not a huge fan of the music. Just about all stand-up comedy in the last 5 years. I am very curious about that one because I can understand having this opinion watching the specials that have been released on Netflix, and what stand-up comedy has become, in part due to the Joe Rogan and the Kill Tony of it all. This is maybe a larger conversation, but that's a pretty bold statement. Again, have some follow-up questions. Benny Blanco, texting, Harry Potter, generative AI, do not get me started. Broccoli hair. I love how this has become the name for that haircut. I see it all the time. Every middle school boy, every teen boy, every 25-year-old boy trying to cosplay as a teen boy. Still, broccoli haircut. This person said, myself. I'm so sorry. The Barbie movie. As I mentioned before, we're in agreement here. I've posted some videos about it. Cottage cheese. Pilates. Balsamic anything. I also don't like balsamic. I think I just don't like sweet vinegar things. I hate kombucha. Maybe that's like the flavor profile I have beef with. Fantasy / smut books. There are so many of these now, like in a mainstream way everywhere. I was at a Costco with my family. I don't remember when this was, probably like last year. And one of those like hockey smut books was just out there on like one of the book tables. And I'm like, oh, I think this is one of those hockey smut books, fantasy books. And I opened it up to like a random page, and let me just say that the children's illustration on the cover of that book should be a criminal offense in terms of false advertising. When you read, if a child can read that well, depending on the child, what's inside that book. It was graphic. I'm sure there's some good fantasy slash smut books out there, but what's happened in that space recently, like, deserves a documentary. Another vote for Taylor Swift. Lord of the Rings, they're saying I'm a huge nerd and I love fantasy, so it should be a natural fit, but no. Um, I am a kind of nerd and I really dislike fantasy in general, and I don't like Lord of the Rings. I tried. I have a friend who dresses up as Gollum. She's a fantastic comedian, but she also dresses up as Gollum. That is the level of Lord of the Rings that I can deal with. It's like somebody making fun of Lord of the Rings. Dogs coming up to me. Now, if they're a cute dog, they get a pass. If they're an ugly dog, less of a pass. Please go watch my video on ugly dog horseshoe theory. Microtrends. Whenever there's a new one, who cares how I drink water or work out? Even though this podcast is called Microtrending, the reason it is because of the plague of microtrends. So I do agree with you. It gives me content to bitch about, but it is very frustrating when you are on the hamster wheel that is the trend cycle. It's fucking annoying. Corporate girlies and beef tallow. Could not agree more. Hiking. It's glorified walking. It isn't fun and I don't want to go. Leave me alone. In the same way that I dislike camping, um, and don't appreciate people being upset by that, I can't be upset by this person disliking hiking. I actually don't mind hiking. I like being out in nature, but I totally understand how it's boring. I think that's valid. Lululemon, clean beauty and food, divine feminine, girl math, parasocial shit with celebs. I've seen like at least 10 for Taylor Swift so far, so maybe I'm in good company here. Thank you. Rooftop bars, when they're fun, but usually they are cold and I'm uncomfortable personally. Bluegrass, cowboy outfits, Burning Man. Burning Man is one of those topics that I don't have enough time to really dig into um, on here, but I will just let you know that Burning Man was one of the things that was kind of a last straw in me ending my longest term relationship. Very nice guy, but the need to go to Burning Man and just everything that Burning Man has become and is, which to my knowledge is not where it started in terms of like radical acceptance or whatever is going on there. It's like not really about the art as much anymore. And there's an orgy tent, which, if that's your thing, that's beautiful, but it was, uncomfortable to be in a relationship and knowing that that was there and people that I knew were probably going there. So this person says, I hate mangoes. I'm Indian and people think I'm crazy. In my opinion, they're the most average fruit ever. Mangoes get so much hype. People fucking love mangoes. I love mango, but I also really dislike some other fruit. Can't hate at hating on mangoes if that's not your thing. Using the word Sammy instead of sandwich. This is a very niche thing, and I have had the same conversation with people about this. I think my mom has even told me this too, or maybe my sister did. Somebody in my family has brought up multiple times the same ick, how much they hate Sammy instead of sandwich, and I am in complete agreement. Labubu's are disgusting. Labubu's are so polarizing, but I somehow feel kind of neutral about them. I think that the craze around them is a little unhinged. But to call them disgusting is so funny to me. Child influencers and family vloggers, cannot agree more. The texture of the bottom of my boyfriend's plates, which is stoneware that's raw. I actually did message this person because I have the same issue. Not touching their boyfriend's plates, but I cannot touch like raw ceramic or stoneware or like terracotta or raw wood. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I definitely have the like sensory uh autism situation going on, allegedly. Self-diagnosed. Beer and beer gardens. I am with you on that. Another vote for Labubu's. Titanic, the movie, the NFL, Wall-E, the movie, salt and vinegar chips, wellness influencers, people telling me the most mundane stories for no reason, like, babe, please have a plot. That's so real. Dark romance literature, Kava Bowl Slop 2.0. I did go to Kava today. I try not to make it too slop-like, but I completely understand the Kava Bowl Slop hate. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. John Mayer, who is a narcissist, by the way. AI, White Lotus, The Office, sweet potatoes, cheese, pickles, septum piercings, Friends. I dislike Friends, and I have never seen an episode of Friends, which might make me a fake hater, but I just can't get into it. Harry Potter, the Bushwick aesthetic / the mustache, fruit just in general, reality TV, red onions, and the fact that they taste and smell like BO. Red onions is up there with ketchup for me in terms of things. Food items that I hate. I fucking hate red onions. Caramelized onion and onion ring, totally fine. Red onions do absolutely smell like BO to me. And I also hate cilantro. Sabrina Carpenter, genocide. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. Just sorry, those two back to back, like next to each other here. Okay. Sabrina Carpenter and genocide. Casamigos tequila, white passport bro influencers. This is like a niche thing that I think people are aware of, but they don't understand like the internet culture around. I would say look up passport bros if you're curious, but I don't know if I even want to recommend that. It's pretty fucked up. Australia, curious. Bagels, the Democrats, Pete Buttigieg worship. I know he's done some positive things, but that like high hopes Pete Buttigieg dance situation, I think really set the tone for the type of person that thinks he is Jesus. Astrology, agree to disagree, but completely understand. Target, olives, another vote for the show Friends. There's actually like a bunch in here. Lots of hits for Friends. Lots of people dislike cheese. Lots of people dislike Taylor Swift. This last one I thought was interesting. Fusion food is unnecessary. I don't want a butter chicken taco. There was a time, and I don't know when it happened, where it was like if you had a food truck or a new restaurant, it had to be fusion in some way. And I think some places have not evolved beyond that food trend. I don't hate fusion food in general, but I will say that there is often a reason why certain things exist in their original forms. Like they said, butter chicken taco. Indian food is absolutely phenomenal. Mexican food is phenomenal. There is a way, perhaps, that they could come together and birth something beautiful. But in terms of like fusion tacos, I can think of like one that I've enjoyed that I thought was really worth the effort. And it was a vegan mock duck Korean taco, which is really specific, but like I still think about it because it was so good. But the unspoken thing about a lot of this is that a lot of fusion food is often more expensive because it has been whitewashed a little bit. It's like bringing those cultures together, the colorful cultures together can create like a white person fantasy about like, what if we mash some of my favorite foods together in this like awesome food experiment and charge $20 for 2 tacos. Like, it's not always like that, but when it is like that, it's bullshit. Anyway, if you responded to that story, thank you. There were far more responses than I can read on here, but my takeaway that I hope you have from all of this is that you should not feel bad about having opinions about things that do not impact the safety and livelihood of other people. The fact that you hate ketchup or cheese or the show Friends should not lead to you being excommunicated in any way. You deserve to dislike the things that you dislike because the alternative is the slippery slope that is Operation Beige and like LinkedIn becoming the only social media platform that we're permitted to use or some bullshit. Not trying to predict anything crazy. That's just like the one place where toxic positivity really reigns supreme. Anyway, hate on, stay salty, and thanks for listening. As always, if there's a topic or microtrend you would like dissected, you can DM me or you can email saltlacroix@gmail.com. Thank you for liking, for sharing, for subscribing, for commenting, for rating the show. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you next week.
Microtrending.